Yes, hello everyone. I'm Lonnie,
I'm
and
Ambrlicious.
we're Untitled Network. This is something different we're going to do. We're not doing these live. We've got, God, how many episodes?
I don't know. It's just something you should have looked up before we started
Dear
this.
God, yeah. Okay, well, just so you
Wasn't it
see,
like 6 seasons?
yes, six
Okay.
seasons, and like I couldn't even tell you. Oh, let's see exactly what the runtime on this is. Like I'm probably about to puke. Oh my God, 4,680 minutes,
It's not bad.
and we literally just watched 60 minutes of it.
Okay. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
It'll go by quicker than what you think.
Oh yeah, definitely. We may even do another one today. But anyway, we're going to be doing these. As you can see, we have the Blu-ray of The Sopranos. I got it in the mail last week, and I thought, oh, you know what? Sopranos is, in my opinion, one of the best TV shows ever made.
It is a really good show. I would
Ever,
agree with that.
yes, ever
There,
made.
it's got a broad spectrum of fans.
Yes,
Um,
yeah, pretty much anybody can watch
just
The
because
Sopranos.
I haven't watched it in years. Like literally, I have not watched this since right before Joseph was born, and
Okay, yeah. So
so it's kind of like watching it for the first time again. And I could see that because it's relatable content even though it's about the mob.
yes, but I mean, there's a reason this show, and this is going to be like a big part of the review, I'm sure. Just this one,
Hmm.
because this is us kind of jump starting the whole thing. Um, this show is widely regarded not only as like probably one of the top five television shows of all time, but also this show is considered to be the show that got the new age of television rolling. The production value. Used to
Yeah.
TV shows, yeah, they were good, but they were for lack of a better word, cheaply made.
Yeah, they were
Um,
definitely low budget.
yeah,
Absolutely.
they didn't get the budget, they didn't get the star power, they didn't get
Hmm.
stuff like that.
The investment, really.
Yeah, and HBO did something with this show that carried over into every other channel. Then you started seeing a lot higher quality content, better production quality on like network shows. Um, Honest to God, if not for The Sopranos, I don't think we'd have ever seen The Walking Dead
I think you're
on
correct.
AMC, because
Yeah.
AMC was another one of those that if it wasn't for The Sopranos, they never would have done Breaking Bad. They never would have done Walking Dead. They never, I mean, there's like a number of shows that never would have even seen the light of day, at least not in a good form, if
Yeah,
not for The
absolutely.
Sopranos. So anyway, this is a little box set here. Every episode, almost 5,000 minutes of content, plus a handful of directors' commentaries and roundtable discussions with the
Ooh,
cast and
excuse me.
crew. Some different things on this. This thing was like a little over $100, but to own what is probably a benchmark of
You're gonna
television.
watch this enough that that $100 is gonna pay for itself.
Yeah, most definitely. And
Like,
a little bit of background for me with this show is my parents watched this show when it first come on. I started watching this is 6 seasons long. I started watching this show at about the midway point of I think season 4. Maybe season 5. I think it was season 4. It was the season right before Steve Buscemi joined the cast. For that one season. And and
no.
so I watched up till about 5 episodes before the end of the series, and then I quit for some goofy reason. And then, just about this time last year or late 2019, I got on HBO, or maybe it was Amazon, because Amazon had a lot of HBO content
Yes.
before HBO Max launched. And I sat down and I binge watched the entire series over the course of about a month. And then I got into like all the other mob movies, like Good Casino. The Irishman released about that time. And so yeah, I binge watched this series in its entirety for the first time about a year ago. And so, I was like, oh, what the heck, let's sit down and do these, and it'll probably be a few months, but I would like to get a full review full series of reviews on this show because it's just so kick ass, and I'm very interested to see where the quality of the show, if it dips in any parts and stuff like that, because we're gonna be doing our typical number reviews and all that other good
Mhm.
stuff that we typically do. So anyway, this episode, episode one, the pilot called The Sopranos, and I didn't know that until just a little bit ago when we looked
Which
it
is
up.
kind of appropriate because it introduces family.
Yes. No, it's not. It's not called pilot or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be completely honest. I've got some favorite episodes that I'm looking forward to. But there's gonna be times where we're like, we're like 2 or 3 episodes from that episode, and I'll be like, let's just get through these so we can watch that one. And so,
Yeah. That'll be
yeah. So, anyway, this episode introduces everybody. We get to meet Tony Soprano. We get to see he starts having panic attacks.
Yeah, we literally meet him. The opening, him going into.
Yeah, and that's another thing is he's having these blackouts, these panic attacks where he passes out due to all the stress in his life and everything. And believe it or not, in 1999 that was a taboo subject.
Very much so.
Now
Especially
it's
for men.
yeah,
And it still is kind of for men.
yeah,
You know. But that was really just like groundbreaking itself. Show a man in the mob, no less, like a high player in the mob,
yeah,
go and talk to a woman about his issues. And he even, when he finally tells his wife,
yes,
he even says that his doctor is a man.
yeah,
Because, first of all, she seems a little off. She would probably be put off by the fact he was talking to another woman,
yeah.
even in a professional manner.
Well, in that same conversation, she confronted him about having a woman on the side. And in that culture, that mob culture, it's almost like normal for that to be the
Yeah,
case.
it seems like that's, yeah.
Yeah, you have a wife, and then you have what they called a gumar on the side, which is your playtime lover off to the side.
Right.
And so which that in itself, I mean, the dishonesty of it, yeah.
Well, they
It's
already dropped hints that her and the Catholic priest are getting it on anyway, so.
yeah.
Like, I think that works both ways. And this is a case of where I will go ahead and say, well, if they were poly, they wouldn't have this problem. So.
that isn't that like you get a lot of shows and movies and stuff where there's two people, a man and a woman. The man is cheating on the woman is cheating on the man, and it's like you're both screwing around. What would be the harm of just coming open with it and just enjoying other people?
Yeah, and then still enjoying each other.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's totally a thing.
So I feel like that's kind of where that came from. That that lifestyle choice came from is that mentality where you kind of sit down and look at the facts in front of you and be like, you know what, this just makes sense.
Right. Right.
Like, hey, we want to be with other people anyway. But there's a lot of stuff going on. Tony Soprano, his uncle Junior, is his father's brother, and he's one of those old school guys that's he's starting to, like Tony said, he's getting old and cranky, and he's starting to make some kind of reckless decisions just because I'm the boss, damn it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And he was getting ready to kill off a dude who inside the restaurant owned by one of their good friends, and he knows that killing somebody in that restaurant is going to totally kill business for that individual. And he's like, man, let's do this somewhere else. And so that has kind of Tony questioning his uncle. That's kind of becoming a conflict there. You got a lot of family drama with his daughter Meadow and wife.
Yeah, she's Meadow's doing normal teenage.
Sneaking out and breaking curfew.
Right.
Lying to the parents. And
when she said something about, you can't break your curfew, you have to keep your grades up to go to that trip. I thought of like all these shows I watched growing up where teenagers had curfew. They were allowed to like go places, and I was like, I didn't experience that. My mother never let me go anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like one friend I could spend the night with, and that was about it,
Just making sure we were still on because the screensaver came up on the stream computer. That was weird.
That.
Must have been a 10-minute thing. But yeah, like, well, see, for me, I had a curfew on school nights, but once I was able to drive, as long as my parents knew where I was at, hell, I didn't have to be home until Sunday night in time to go to bed for school. Like, I could leave on Friday, and my parents never hear from me as long as they knew where I was at for like 48 hours. And I know a lot of people didn't have that.
Right.
I turned out okay.
I mean, once I did with my dad and I was allowed to do that.
Yeah, I started that about 6 months into being 16. And I mean, it was good. I never went out and did anything too crazy. But yeah, this we don't. I like the dynamic of Anthony Jr. I think is it his son named Anthony Jr.?
Yes.
Okay, it's weird because I've seen the whole show and for some reason I couldn't remember. The only thing Anthony Jr.'s doing right now is playing foil to Meadow.
Yes. Yes, he locked her window so she stopped.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That's pretty epic, actually.
I'm trying to think, the whole, well, one of the scene that I thought was so amazing in this episode was where they're in the restaurant and Tony runs into his therapist, and the therapist and her boyfriend or husband, I guess.
I would assume it's her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The therapist and her boyfriend are standing there in this nice restaurant, and they've had reservations, but people are slow to leave, and they've got like 5 people in front of them, and the boyfriend is all pissed off because they're having to wait in line, and the therapist is...
he did it. He like reserved it like 2 weeks at
yeah,
a time.
And Tony's therapist is like wanting to leave and go somewhere else. Well, in comes Tony. They kind of have a little bit of small talk,
and you can tell when they're having that small talk. You can tell that therapist is so uncomfortable. Really did not want to approach her in public.
Yeah, to acknowledge her.
Because she knows. She hints around. She knows what he's really up to in their first session, because she knows the doctor that lives next door to him.
Yeah, Tony's doctor who lives next door to him, kind of helped Tony out and then sent him to this therapist. And in the course of communication, I'm sure everything came out. And so, yeah, she kind of acknowledges that. But then during this scene, Tony comes in behind them while they're sitting there all pissed off waiting. And, he goes right to his table. And you see Tony kind of doing this
Gesturing
number.
To him.
And, like, immediately the maitre d' or whatever comes up and is like, all right, y'all's table's ready. She's like, oh wow, Tony's like hooked you up.
Yeah.
But that's a conflict in this show because Tony has now done her a favor, and they go to great pains in this episode to show it doesn't matter whether you want the favor or not. Once you get involved, it doesn't matter if it's something as simple as the dude hooking you up with a quick table. You're part of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think even taking him on as a patient already in.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean,
you know what? Knowing what I know.
That's why she established that right away. Hey, I know what you're up to.
Yeah.
And she basically was like, I know I'm a part of it. Please don't tell me anything. Please don't. Because she didn't want to have to report it. Because, she still has her license to consider and all that. And,
yeah.
But she also does not want to, wind up in the bottom of the ocean somewhere either. Knowing things.
Do you think at this point in the show that there's almost like a kind of a thrill for her to have this kind of patient?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think it eventually will be. I think right now she just wants to help him, but she's also very nervous.
You think she's more nervous than intrigued?
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah, because she probably doesn't know what to.
It's interesting because I know, knowing just you know,
Because you've recently watched it,
the,
you know a lot of things.
this show is fresh to me to an extent.
Mm.
I don't remember everything because I blasted through this series, and we talked about like during our WandaVision review the other day that sometimes you watch these shows and especially if you binge them in big chunks, you don't quite pick up everything that you do. Especially because I didn't sit down for 20 minutes after watching every episode and talk about it.
Right, yeah.
So I think this viewing will help me.
It'll be a different experience for
Oh yeah, because now I know a lot of stuff, and I'll be able to absorb a lot more because I'm actively thinking about it and talking about it after the fact. So, trying to think if there's anything. The Artie Bucco, the restaurant owner. That was a big thing that happened. Is they were okay. So Tony's Uncle Junior was going to kill this dude, and so Tony got like some cruise tickets to give Artie to get him out of town for like 2 weeks, so his uncle wouldn't do that in his restaurant. So Artie's wife sees right through everything, and she's like, look, I don't want to get involved with these mobsters. It's bad enough that they patronize the place. Do not accept those tickets, or I will leave your ass, basically is what happened.
Yeah, that's basically what
happened. So he goes back to Tony and was like, man, I can't take these tickets, I'm sorry. Doesn't really give him any explanation or anything. And then like almost the next scene, you see one of Tony's guys walking out of the restaurant in the middle of the night, and then the restaurant explodes, and they basically paint it as a faulty stove or whatever. And Artie's all upset and everything. They're like, oh, insurance money and all that. So it's almost like they took a bad situation and almost made it worse.
Yeah.
Because they went from like just trying to get him out of town to, oh, that didn't work, well, let's blow up a stove, and it destroyed his restaurant. So they destroyed his restaurant. It was just kind of like a catch-22. Like, there was a no-win situation at that point. But I guess they figured blowing up the restaurant was better than somebody getting killed in the restaurant. That's a little less worrisome, I guess.
Right, yeah.
But,
it was like a compromise.
Yeah. So, yeah, anything of note that stuck out to you, or anything you want to discuss?
How it triggered left.
Yes.
Like, that was just like, once, like, you saw him out there with the ducks and having a good time. They bonded with him. He went to a point to build a ramp in his pool, like this guy.
Yes.
And their daughter's like duck shit out there now because it's covered in there.
It's funny too because Tony in this show so far doesn't really strike you as like a hands-on building stuff type guy, but he built a ramp for those ducks.
Right, and he just really took to them and cared to them. Like when they left, that's really what triggered his panic attacks. Yep. And I really feel like the ducks were the only thing he felt really in control of in it. It was something steady. It was something he could take care of, and there's no worries.
It's a distraction.
Yeah.
And
then he admitted to his, therapist, the ducks, he felt like he was going to lose his family.
Yeah.
So when the ducks left, that made that reality quite clear to him. And, I could see why he thinks that. I mean, he already thinks his wife's screwing around on him. His daughter can't wait to freaking leave their house.
And his son's kind of just there.
Yeah. He's trying to train his nephew. Nephew has no interest. He's just a lazy person.
Yeah. He's kind of a dick as well.
He's spoiled rotten. He's been spoiled rotten by the family already. And he doesn't want to work to keep what he's already got.
His uncle's causing issues. His
mother's getting too old to take care of herself. And I'm sure that's hard on anybody,
Yeah, and she's just a constant just fountain of negativity. Mm-hmm. Like he'll buy her something, and she's all the time saying.
She complained about him using mesquite on the meat.
Yeah. I'm very curious. Like from here on, let's watch this show and see if we can pinpoint any scene whatsoever where she doesn't have a negative thing to say.
Right. She is. She's, she's one of those mothers that's overbearing,
Yeah.
very picky, and then she's old school on top of that, and then she's got his uncle, talking shit in her ear,
Yeah.
like basically saying they need to do something about Tony, basically insinuating they need to get rid of him,
Yeah.
and it's like, what on earth are you that thirsty for power? Like, what's going on? You ain't no spring chicken, sir.
Yeah.
Better go ahead and let him take over and relax and enjoy yourself.
It's all pride. Pride is pride is probably a central theme to this show, and will probably carry over to the very end.
Oh yeah, I can see that. I mean, Tony had a whole lot of pride going into that therapist office.
Yeah, he actually got up during the first visit and walked out when they started making real headway. I think it scared him.
It did, because he's like, I don't want to do this.
I think,
and that's very relatable. Like, I'll tell you right now, that's a huge reason I'm not in therapy, is because once you start making that headway, that's a lot to recover from. It's a lot to take in. Not sure that I can handle that.
Yeah. Plus, Tony is probably a millionaire who can afford therapy, and most people can't now.
Right. I mean, you're true. That's true. It costs a lot to take care of your mental health, especially if it's gonna maybe possibly require medication.
Yeah.
Speaking of, they put him on Prozac.
Yes.
That's very common for when this was made.
Is Prozac still a thing?
Not near as much.
Okay.
But it is still a thing. Okay. Not near.
Right. Well, we were just
the Zoloft that they mentioned.
Okay.
Pretty solid.
Oh, well, of course, here comes Jubilee. Holy crap, Jubilee is on a video.
I know, she never gets on a video.
Nope. Here she is. She is. She's like, yo, we're talking the mob. Here's Jubilee.
That's true, the boss. The boss of this house, huh?
You can see her tail up next to the microphone. That's pretty funny.
Start this.
Homegrown reviews with Lonnie and Ambrlicious.
You're silly. Okay.
We got the cats walking around.
Oh gosh.
All right, so number. Let's give this a number.
Give it a rating.
Absolutely.
What do you want? I'm curious.
Yeah. 9 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 because on its own, this is probably gonna be about a 7. But the fact that it is the pilot where you're introduced to everybody, it establishes so much stuff, gets it an extra 10 points. This isn't a perfect episode by any means, but it is one that I could watch by itself over and over without really.
I agree with that.
If we're to a point where I could watch this episode 2 times in a row and not be bothered by that, it deserves at least a 9. But it's not a perfect episode, and it's definitely not one of those 11 episodes. I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Give it an 8 out of
10. Okay.
It does a lot of groundwork for a first episode.
Yes.
I really like that.
You've got like half a dozen.
There's a lot of first episodes are usually good, but you could really care less about watched it, whatever. And I'm with you. I could watch this again and still be just as interested to see what happens next. Kind of like The Walking Dead.
Yes.
Like, I could start that first episode and just as intrigued as I was the first time I watched it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
I'll get sucked in like no other.
This is just a neat little tidbit. Might even be worth a trivia question at some point in the future. But whenever I finished the series of The Sopranos, I watched the final episode, and most people know how it ended. But as soon as it was over, the first thing that I watched after that was the pilot. I watched it again to see
see
how much
it,
things had changed
yeah,
over
how it
6
all
seasons.
came for full circle.
Yeah.
Really, you know.
And that was that was a fun experience. Something that I think we'll probably end up doing again when this is over with. But yeah. So 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I need to like keep like a little written list to where we like keep track. Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Whatever you want.
All right. Well, anyway, we'll see y'all next time. I don't know how we're gonna schedule these things out, but they are gonna be pre-recorded, pre-scheduled, that kind of thing. And yeah, that's it. I'm Lonnie.
I'm Ambrlicious.
And we are Untitled Nerd Network. We'll see y'all for episode 2 at some point in the very near future.